it's spring training. So if not the RST, something, right? Get into it. I want you to start thinking about actually building out that training, because before too long, it will be too late. You really are going to be too late to the game, and you're going to be in the middle of it going, how do you not know how to pencil a deal properly? And at that point, you're so far behind, you think you're in first place.
This is a show for anybody that has something that they want to say. It's going to be full of people with a lot of energy, CEOs, OEMs, vendors.
Best practice ideas in this industry and of neighboring industries.
We're talking to people that are on the cutting edge of processes, management.
Serial entrepreneurs, authors. We really have a feast of all different types of senior level people.
A cornucopia, as it were.
A plethora, maybe. Grab a pen, grab a cup of coffee, and have a seat. Start writing. This is GarageCast.
GarageCast. I'm not opening this thing, and I'm not saying anything that I've ever said before because of the a-holes that are our business partners making fun of us on the social webs.
That's true. So why the hell did we bring one of them on with us?
A-holes.
Yeah.
There will be no treasure troves, and Sam will not say I go back to, or I'm sitting right here thinking none of that stuff is going to occur.
Yeah.
No
and
more
this is
of it.
not,
you
this
get
is,
no more of it.
Yeah. This is not Tony or not Sam. This is Tony and Sam. And we're politely inviting you to come on with us, Schoolie.
AIM Expo. We just ran through 8-9 episodes. Super good time. So everybody knows that's a couple weeks past, and we've already talked about, they'll be next year in Anaheim. So that's kind of cool. Anything new going on in the industry that we should talk about, guys, before we break into our mission here?
Well, I think nothing to conclude with, but boat shows are still in progress. We just had Miami, it just hit, and varying degrees of it. What's weird is that when the people are present, the people as in the people going to the boat show, and I'll give you an example of when that didn't happen, and the staff is tuned up, ready to go, they've been very successful. But when either the staff isn't ready, as in it kind of caught you by surprise and you stumbled into the event, which let's hope that doesn't happen often, or what happened in Atlanta, you remember a snowstorm that took over the East Coast? It knocked out an entire full day of the boat show for Atlanta's 2.5-day boat show. So they weren't even allowed in the building. There was no boat show on one of 2.5 days. So you can imagine when you make 50% of the sales for the year are coming from the boat show. That one stung a little bit. So those are going into the numbers. It's kind of some misleading representation of what's happening with the numbers, but some very good ones and some off ones as well. So we'll wait and see how this whole thing wraps up. But that's what I've been watching lately.
Yeah. Well, I want to go with pitchers and catchers reporting, right? They've reported spring ball is here, and per spring ball, Dantzler doesn't even know what that is.
I do know what that is. Ed used to say that all the time.
Balls? Are we saying balls? Yeah.
Spring training. Not juggling circus training. That is where I went first. But
yes. Yeah. Spring ball, blocking, tackling, whatever euphemisms we can lay down here about what shaking is. Season starts tomorrow, and we should be focusing on training our people. That is something that I will continue to say on this podcast forever and ever until the mic is not in front of my face. And with that, we wanted to talk about an initiative that we have that we brought back, and those are the regional sales trainings, the RSTs. And Sam, let's go to you right off the get-go, because this started years ago, back in the day.
Yeah. So RSTs, the idea was it was kind of interesting because coming out of 20 clubs in 2000, the first round of 20 clubs, there were all of these requests for in-dealership training. And you're just like, at some point, you're like, I can't get to all these, Ed. We got to do something differently. And so that became RSTs, regional sales training. We basically took the in-house 9-step sales process and took it on the road like a circus sideshow, which somehow I was kind of familiar with doing. I did a few with Ed. I did a few with Tom Post. For those who remember Tom. Yeah. Tom, we did a couple of these trainings together. I think even Barbara Quarles and I did one or two of these together, but it was basically it was a 2-day event, and we said bring half of your frontline staff one day, so the other half's covering the floor, and then we'd flip it so the other half of the staff could come the next day, so you wouldn't be without people on the floor. That's how we did it, and it was literally frontline sales training. So you sit here and you think about this is pre-internet leads and everything was coming through the front door back then. But it was great and it took off. So we ended up doing it. Not only was it a great tool to solve a problem, which was we had too many in-dealership requests, but it also gave us an opportunity to groom up, at the time, me, the new guy, the F&G, right? And it gave us an opportunity to groom up some future new guys coming down the line, including one Tony Gonzalez.
Yeah, that's
Mr.
how
RST guy himself.
Yeah, that's I was brought onto the team right at the time that you had like come off of that first iteration and started to get even busier. And back then it was like, I think we were doing like 10, 12 different cities. I'm in Kansas City. We were all over the place, right?
Yeah, we did multiples for sure.
Yeah, and that's literally how I learned how to train the sales process is, hey, for 1 hour today, you're going to do this portion, and then tomorrow you're going to try this. And so, yeah, that is exactly how I got trained up in the sales process was the RSTs. Lots of fun being on the road. And I remember at that point in time, it was me and David Pearson that hit the road together, and we were crushing those all over the country. So
I'll never forget when David Pearson took my greatest show on earth, right? Because I love the circus. I love going to the Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey circus, greatest show on earth. That was a story I told in the RSTs back in the day. And the first time I heard David tell a story, he's like, it's like the greatest show on earth. I'm like, dude's stealing my story, right? And then he started talking about Dumbo with his ears. And I'm like, you can't just take my story, replace one character and steal it. So we had to train that out of Pearson at the time, but several of us have come up through the ranks. And then we've got, to your left-hand side on my screen is Schoolie over there. And a modified version of that was happening when I was doing work with Harley Davidson HDFS, right? And so Schoolie, you want to tell a little bit about that, about you and I being on the road together?
Yeah, I feel like I've been super excited to bring this back out. And I made the joke, like we went to the GC basement, dusted the box off and brought the RSTs out because it's been around for that long. Because that's how awesome of a session, a setting, a training, whatever you want to call it. It's how great this has been. It also was, to Sam's point, how I really got started. Same as Tony. I feel like it's trial by fire when you become new to GC. Like, let's see if you could do an RST, kid. Like, get out there and knock them out. So for me, it was HDFS and a lot of the road work that we were doing, Sam, and that was more specifically agenda driven of how we would build out an agenda. We would move through that in a day process and then also do the 9-step sales process. And I remember vividly, this was early on for me in GC Victory was involved. That's how long ago. It was Polaris, Victory, Indian, and we were doing boot camps around the country. And that's when Tony first signed me off from FNG to able to carry your own weight, was at these RSTs. So these RSTs, my point is they have a sweet spot in my memory and they have a sweet spot for me because of what we get to do with our clients when we're all over the road putting it on.
I think both of you would agree with me in the fact that
would be rare.
That would be a rare occasion.
Let's just be honest.
You shall agree with me with this. And that is that dealers tend to always be reactionary when it comes to training. We find ourselves, oh, holy shit, a mad rush of customers just came through the door and it's, the middle of March. And what have we done to make sure that we're getting training done? So I feel like it's always a catch-up game that we're trying to get our legs underneath us. And so talk to me, schools, about cutting the curve first, about what it is that we're trying to accomplish. And then I want to go into kind of the nuts and bolts, Sam, of like what is involved in them. Sure. So schools, what are we trying to accomplish?
Yeah, I go back to a conversation. I know I'm going to get hammered relentlessly.
You just went back. One Dantzler phrase. I go back to. It's not that easy, is it?
Pull to be Dantzler.
You stick to your treasure troves, Tony.
Yeah.
Leave that to us.
I know I'm going to get hammered for this one, but a quote in Jeremiah Johnson is like, winter's coming. And it still shocks everybody. Like, oh, holy shit, winter's here again. Like, really? You didn't know this was coming? And what really helped, or what really pushed or motivated me and the rest of the team to bring out the RSTs is because, I'll tell a short story. I was doing an in-dealership training and we were talking and beating this drum, and you've all heard us get a training schedule, be ready, season starts tomorrow, all the things we tell you. And I'm sitting there up on my trainer soapbox, beating people up about the basics. Got to get back to the basics. Got to get back to the fundamentals. And I applaud this young dude in the front row who sticks his hand up and he goes, sir. Also weird to be called sir in this job versus the other job. He goes,
get used to it.
What are these basics you keep talking about? And I was like, oh, we have failed this young dude in our industry because he doesn't even know the basics, right? We've been beating that drum back to the basic fundamentals. So that motivated me to say, we got to get these RSTs back out so that we can start getting back to the basics, back to the fundamentals. It also was an availability issue. So we wanted to make sure that we were available to all of our clients. And that's why we strategically picked the places we did based off a survey. We strategically picked those so that we could get in front of you to help get back to the basics, get back to the fundamentals. It's not fair of us, in my opinion, it's not fair of us as GC to just tell you like, get it done, get your trainings without us being available to help or to help offer that training. And whether it's us or anybody, I would prefer it to be us because we love doing them, but just get some training. So that's really where this came, this not new push, but this reinvigorated push to get RSTs. COVID kind of slowed it for a while just because we weren't able to. So that's why we wanted to get back out on the road, get back out in front of you.
Well, and I also think there are options out there for online training, right? There's Wheelhouse College. There are several different options out there for people to go to the online training, but there's just something different about you going into a room with 20 to 30 people, all on the same page, all in the same department. And Schoolie and I have a freaking blast doing these in the front of the room. And we're allowed to bob and weave around the agenda, right? We know what we want to cover, but we can cover it back to front to back from whatever the room is telling us to make sure that we cover off on all the points. And I think that's what makes it so fun. And that's why we've got them full. Schools, you mentioned where we went to do them. We also went backwards into the season, right? It's going to get warmer in Phoenix before it does in Milwaukee. So we're going to Phoenix first and then Milwaukee. So some logic to how we plan the route as well, Tony.
Yeah. So Dantzler, I want to go to you on this one. So I don't want people to just see this as we're marketing RSTs. That's most certainly one of the things that we're doing. But I also want to talk to you about what would you say to people out there that, nope, I'm not sending people to an RST. I'm not going to go to Wheelhouse College. What should we be focusing on in the next couple of months to ensure that we're ready when that door just starts going crazy? What are the things that you should be looking at?
Well, and I think the naysayers out there who said, no, we can do it fine ourselves. I think what you're getting at is what's the list of how RSTs changed from 2001 and 2 as far as content versus where we are today. And it is significant. We also changed the format. So instead of one day for half your staff and then we flip-flop them, we want as much of your staff as you can afford to send us. And by afford, I mean with your time that you can afford to send us, along with managers in the room, because I think we all need to understand the dynamics of kind of where we are moving forward and what's available, or what's different, if you will. There was a book written by Daniel Pink called To Sell is Human. And in that book, he talks about information asymmetry. This was pre-internet, talking about the asymmetry between what the customer knew and what the dealer knew, right? There was a huge gap because there wasn't product knowledge available or financing rates available. You didn't have anywhere to go to get that information. So when they come in the store today, what's the information asymmetry? And I think you probably all agree with me, there isn't any, or if anything, the customer knows more than the dealer who's out there, right? So it's not about features, advantages, and benefits, which is why there's a heavy push not only in our management academies, but in this RST to really get frontline staff understand the psychology of what's happening when somebody walks in the door. What's going through their brain. We all know that nobody needs, be it a motorcycle or boat, nobody needs what we have to offer. So why would they buy it in the first place? So we spend a considerable amount of time in the front side of these sessions making sure they have a grasp over the psychology of the fact that customers want to say yes. And quite frankly, all we have to do is make it easy, make it awesome, and get out of their way because they already want to do it. Also, it's the managers who have bad habits. So when you get into the digital landscape, and what a topic that is, we all know it's the holy grail right now. How do we handle that inbound digital lead? Why are managers still saying, are you making your calls? Are you making your calls? As opposed to, are you making your contacts? And then we get into the hierarchical status of, is that an email? Is that a text? Is that a video? How does that work? How do you, the people in the room, feel if somebody reaches out to you on a phone call when you said, text me only, please? So we go through a lot of examples in the front of the room for people to understand it is a different buying landscape, but the psychology of why they want it and the tools to get them to say yes are still the same behind the scenes.
Schools, what else? What else is going on in these things?
I got a challenge as I get into what else is going on. I have a challenge for all of you out there. And this is an exercise that I started running more and more frequently. I want you to sit down with a piece of paper and I want you to write down the list of why not, meaning why is your sales process not being followed? I guarantee across the country, it's about damn near the same. It's time, it's they don't know it, it's training, it's path of least resistance. But I challenge you individually, sales managers, service managers, GMs, whoever it be, I challenge you to really look at why your process is not being adhered to. Write those down and then come up with systematic plans as to why not, because then at least you know what to attack. They don't find value in the steps. We're rushing due to time, training. Then at least you can attack why. Because I believe every single one of us would agree process is king. Process is crucial. Anybody in this industry realizes that. But the problem is we are not adhering to it. We're not sticking to it and we allow it to fail. So part of what we go over in this RSTs, Tony, to your question, is that how do we stick to process? How do we hold accountable to a process? As a lot of you know, for those of you that don't, my previous career in the Denver Fire Department, I had an awesome opportunity to be on Rescue Company 1. It was all technical rescue. Everything with technical rescue is specifically built on process. That way we have less availability, or we have less opportunity for failure. We have consistent production. We have to rely on it for literally life and death reasons. Now, I want you to think about why can't you adhere to a process within your own four walls, and what are those failures, and approach those in a one-by-one manner to figure out how do we get back on track with process? How do we stay more consistent? Because every single one of us knows, whether it's the digital landscape, the front door, service department, I'm talking to you too, and parts, like there should be a tried and true process. So why are we not? And then we start arming sales managers, general managers, and the frontline troops on the ground who are beating up the sales floor and the digital traffic log. We arm them with some skills to stay accountable and to stay true to it, because we know what works. We also know why we deviate. And that's the delta we want to try and close.
So I'm hearing psychology of selling. I'm hearing that digital traffic log. I'm hearing transactional data. Dantzler, what do you have to say? You follow up.
Well, I was just going to say, to put a bow around all of it, it is really from inception, as in somebody put their hand up and said, I'm interested. We know that 95% of that time it happens in the digital landscape. All the way through, they bought something from us, and what's the cadence of follow-up on the backside of it, right? It's everything in between. To your point, transactions, 9-step sales process. Do you have a digital sales process? How do we communicate with everybody? The psychology on the front side of it. Closing skills, 4 squares. We literally, day one is a 30,000 foot snapshot of where we are and how the customer's walking in the store and where their head is, whether the store is your digital store, your physical store. And then day 2 is the granular component to it. So like I said, Schoolie and I've been knocking these out. We've got 2 under the belt right now, and we're having a blast too. And it's really fun to cater to the student's agenda and where they want to go. Let's finish up on the details of schools. What is the day 2 specifically looking under the hood there?
Yeah. So day 2 is basically, it takes all of day 1's 30,000 foot view that Sam just went through, and it takes all of that and puts it back into our 9-step tried and true sales process, all the way from analyzing the traffic log, why and how we should care about every step of the process, and then from greet to taillights down the road. How do we move from each step? How does each step build upon themselves? And then also the value, like really, what is the importance behind this step? And I feel like that's when most light bulbs start going on. Like, this is the intent behind the step. And then also, what does a good one look like? What does a good greet look like? What does a good presentation look like? And then measuring the success of all those steps as we move all the way from greet to taillights down the road. And that's kind of the fun part of like actually just sticking through it. And we get this opportunity in that room to really talk about metric side, Harley side, the marine side of the fence, and how every one of those segments, or every one of those sub industries within our industry, they deal with their deal a little differently, right? They may not do a 4 square. They may do a buyer's order. They may do it over the phone. However, the fundamental greet, presentation, sit down is still the same. I don't care if it's a $250,000 runabout. I don't care if it's a Honda CR50. I care that this process, however you can tweak it inside of that, lands for everybody from metric, Harley, and in the marine world as well.
Nice. Good. So where are we going, guys? We're sitting here. We're I think probably by the last week of February, 25th. Where are we going in the future?
Well, you could correct my order on this, Schools, but I think we've still got, we've got Nashville, we've got Milwaukee, we've got Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
Is that it, or is there one more I'm missing?
No, those are the three. So we've already been to Phoenix, had a great time, great engagement. Orlando, same thing, phenomenal. And now we have 3 left. So you only missed one there, Sam. Nashville, Salt Lake City, and Milwaukee in that order. Nashville is March 25, 26, Salt Lake, April 1 and 2, and Milwaukee's 8 and 9. Again, not to be a sales pitch. It's really not. Hit me up. I'll help you get signed up, or go to our products page and a link. But again, we want to stress, like Tony started off with, is like, it's spring training. So if not the RST, something. Right? Get into it. I want you to start thinking about actually building out that training, because before too long, it will be too late. You really are going to be too late to the game, and you're going to be in the middle of it going, how do you not know how to pencil a deal properly? And at that point, you're so far behind, you think you're in first place.
Yep.
Well, hey, Tony, you mentioned something, and I was thinking about it. Actually, Schoolie mentioned it, and I was thinking about why don't they do the process and bringing in the 4-square? Some people on a 4-square, some are on a buyer's order. We literally say, what are you using? And we talk about, so why does that work from the customer's perspective? That's a big talking point in this 2-day event. And then why doesn't it work? Why does that feel bad? For those of you putting a buyer's order on the table to try to get a deal closed, and you're showing them the total dollar amount when all they cared about was $400 a month, you scare the hell out of people like that, right? So we use what they want. We put it up on the screen or flip charts. We're running off of both these days. And we just talk through from the customer's perspective. If you were the customer, how would that feel? And they get to see kind of, oh, that's why we pencil a new next to a used, and we try to push them onto new or used, depending on the strategy that dealer happens to be doing. So it's really a cool, both 30,000 foot and simultaneously very granular experience. To Tony's point, as you know, Tony, if you're not going to get training from us, get it somewhere.
Yeah, man. Training is perpetual. It has no shelf life. You always need to be training your people every single moment of your season and past season and in winter and all those things. So super cool. I believe these have been so successful that you're thinking about doing more of these schools. Yeah.
I hope Sharon doesn't hear this from her team, because she's going to freak out, but I might have to ask for bigger meeting rooms. Right now she's having a full on breakdown, but we're at that point where we try to set an estimate, but we also want the availability to go, because sometimes we get more and more requests, and I want to be able to expand that room again for all of you to be able to get some training in. I do fully intend to grow this. We are bringing on Derek from our team, Luke from our team. We want to get Pearson back in the mix. We're going to start making this a bigger and bigger initiative. We're running up against summer this year. However, next year, and maybe even into early fall, we're going to start rolling more and more of these out, because we're seeing huge value and huge participation by all of you. And honestly, you, our GC family, are the ones that asked for it. So you asked for your own punishment is what I'm getting at. Yeah.
Well, to Schoolie's point there, it's funny now. I can't not hear it. Ever since they made fun of us on the podcast, Tony, to Schoolie's point, I just said it right there. But to your stupid point, Schoolie, we're looking to roll these out again in the fall. We're trying to not do them during the heat of your season, but we want to front load your season, and we want to put them on the backside too for some of your new hires going into the Christmas season. It really is a win-win-win. Not only do you guys get training, but we get to groom up some of our new people and get them FaceTime in front of the room. Our goal is that as we go into 2026, that we have multiple people who can run these on their own, so that we can then increase the volume of them. But for right now, Schoolie and I are having a blast doing them together. So we'll keep on that program.
One more thing I got to add to the backside of that is that I really see, in talking to all my Marine friends and also all my Canadian friends, I hear you. We weren't able to make one happen up there this year. But what I want to put together, and what I promise you to put together, is I want to do a Marine-specific regional sales. Not saying Metric and Harley can't jump in and have a party with us, but I want to start putting some of these together leading up to boat show season. I think there's a huge need there, and I would love to get in front of all of our Marine friends right in that the precipice or the start of boat show season, because I think that would really help out with Marine leading into that, because we all know the seasonality is just a little bit different with Marine and their boat show schedules, and I'd love to get in some of that.
Yeah.
Right on, man. Thanks for all the information, guys. Everybody out there, info at Garage Composites. That's it. We're done. This episode's over. See you the next time we do one.
Such an eloquent outro.
You're not going to sucker everybody. You're not going to sucker me into my standard intro. There it is. See you next time. For Sam Dantzler, Jordan Schoolmeester, I'm Tony Gonzalez. This has been GarageCast. We'll see you next Tuesday.
Thanks, everyone.
Really appreciate you.